Hey, I'm REM, and this is my TBR for the Aurelium Autumn Equinox of 2026. So if you don't know, Aurelium is a readathon that happens in September and May, September and April, where your character goes to magical school and gets a magical degree, and you read books according to the classes they have to take for that degree. So I have four characters. Three are in their second semester of their first degree, and one is doing her second degree. So we'll start with the three characters who are getting their first degree. So for them, in the autumn semester, they not only have to take classes, they have to take subjects, and each subject they have to take a certain level in. The basic level is O, the next level is Q, and the third level is D. So if they have to take O in a subject, they only have to read one book, but if they have to take Q, then they have to read two books. So my first character is Miriam, and she is trying to become an LDA excavationist, which is basically an archaeologist. So for her first subject, she has two subjects. She has animal studies and restoration. For her first subject, which is animal studies, she has to get a D. So she has to read three books. So her first lesson in animal studies is crown magic, which means that the prompt is antlers or horns on the cover or in the title. So I went for on the cover. I chose The Mere Wife by Readathon Headley, which happens to have a mountain goat on the cover. And damn. Doesn't really not like me. Discord really does not like me looking at my own message. And this is a retelling of Beowulf, set in a gated community. I have not read about Beowulf, and I don't really know what a gated community is. We're off to a great start that way. The next class she has to take for animal studies is Magical Zootechnics, which has to have a farm animal on the cover or in the title, and I chose Horsing Around by Nancy Krulik. This is a Kitty Kazoo Switcheroo book. The Kitty Kazoo Switcheroo books are a series which is aimed at children who are just learning to read, and we follow Katie, whose nickname is Kitty Kazoo, and she has this awful magic curse where she basically gets turned into something or someone else in each book and has to deal with it. I really like all of them, honestly. They're not like the most amazing literature, but they're fun. And then lastly, their last class for animal studies is three-headed creatures, and for that one I need to read part of a trilogy. So I chose the second book in a trilogy, which is Storm Rising by Mercedes LeKay. It's impossible to explain what this is because, yes, it's the second book in a trilogy, but there are multiple trilogies before it. Like, this is like a series of trilogies, if that makes sense. But basically, we're following this guy who is a assistant to a diplomat. And basically, his country was at war for centuries and centuries with the country that he's going to be a diplomat and assistant diplomat to. But now they've made peace, mainly because of a bigger danger on the horizon. Okay, and then for restoration, she has to get a Q in restoration. So her O level class is cardiac biomancy, and for that the prompt is heart on the cover and the title, and I chose The Hearts We Sold by Emily Lloyd-Jones. So this is a YA fantasy about a girl who makes a deal with the devil. And then for Q, we have Jitterjinx is the class, and the prompt is verb in the title. And for that I chose A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martin. This is the second in a duology. So I'll be finishing my duologies. That's really what I wanted to focus on in this TBR, is continuing in series and also my Hercule prompts. So obviously the verb is called, and the first book in the series was also about a diplomat. Apparently I like fantasy and science fiction with diplomats. And we had, our main character is a diplomat to an empire. And she knows that the previous diplomat was murdered, but she has to kind of figure out how while dealing with the political machinations that are going on, and I really, really liked it. Okay, then my next character is Rafaela. And Rafaela is becoming a star whisperer. So she has 4 subjects. She has art evolution, astronomy, lore, and psionics and divination. So for art evolution, she only has to get an O. And the subject and the class for that is picnic replicators. And the prompt is opposite in the color wheel from your last read book. My last book I read was Murderer's Row, which was black. So the opposite on the color wheel is obviously white. I don't even have to look that up. I mean, they're not really colors, but I read a black book, so. And I chose for that the Orenda by The Orenda is by Joseph Boyden. For some reason, I can't really find a good summary of what it is, but it's historical fiction that happens in Canada in the 17th century. Okay. Then she has astronomy. For astronomy, she has to get a D. And here's where my picture books start coming in, because I didn't actually have things on my TBR that fit all these prompts, and that's when I go for picture books. So for astronomy O, the class is birth rate numerology, and the prompt is a bit complicated, but basically it came out that I had to read a book that was published in the year 2000, which apparently I don't have on my TBR. That's kind of crazy. But what I chose was the picture book Henry Hikes to Fitchburg by D.B. Johnson, which is apparently based on something that Walden wrote, but I looked it up and it actually sounds really cute. It's about 2 friends who are meeting in the same place, but they both view their journey in different ways, and so they end up having different journeys. I really hope that they both like have a fun time, and it's just like about their personality, you know? Like, it's not necessarily bad to have, like, I hope it's not like a moral, like, oh, you should go slowly, whatever. If someone enjoys going fast, they should go fast, you know what I mean? Anyways, then the next prompt was Twin Stars and How to Spot Them, which is another book from an author who wrote your last 5-star book. My last 5-star book, basically, I don't really do stars, but my last 5-star book was Twilight Hauntings by Angie Sage, which is the first in the duology. So obviously I'm going to read the second in the duology, which is Midnight Train by Angie Sage. This is a middle grade fantasy duology about a girl who has magic, but she lives somewhere where magic is very illegal, and she ends up getting told on, and the story obviously goes from there. And lastly, for level D, the class is Past the Fundamentals of Stargazing, and that is the word night in the cover, in the title. So I didn't have anything on my TBR, actually, so I went for Night Animals by Gianna Marino. I just chose it because I had a cover that I just really liked how it looked. And like, if I like the illustrations, there's a good chance I like the picture book, because the illustrations are such a major part. Like, I would say they're 2/3 of the part of a picture book. Okay, then for lore, again, she only has 1 class. She only has to do the O class, and that class is called Tooth Bunny. And the prompt was a bunny on the cover or in the title, and I chose The Bunny Ballet by Nora Erickson and Ellie McKay. Again, same reason, I just really like the illustration on the cover, and yeah. I'm not sure I'll like it as much as I think I'll like Night Animals, though. Then for psionics and divination, we go back for her having to do all 3 levels. So the first class for psionics and divinations is chronoception. And for that, I had to flip a coin. If I got heads, I needed to read a standalone. If I got tails, I needed to read part of a series. Luckily, I got tails, and I actually have 2 options for this. We'll see which one I'd rather read. But the one I say I'm going to read right now is City of Ships by Mary Hoffman. This is the 5th in the Extravaganza series. This is a series which follows, in each book it follows a different teenager, and they get a magical artifact which brings them to an alternate historical Italy. These aren't the best books ever, but I do really like them still. Like, they're never going to be more than like a 3.5 star, but I still enjoy reading them. Okay. Then, wait, what? Oh, yes. Then the Q class is cranial psychometry, and for that I need to read a book with a skull on the cover or in the title. So I actually chose another picture book, but it's one that I actually had on my TBR, and that is When Sue Found Sue, Sue Hendrickson Discovers Her T-Rex by Tony Bizzeo and Diana Sudeika. So if you don't know, Sue the T-Rex is the most complete T-Rex skeleton ever found, and it taught us a lot about T-Rexes. So this is just a picture book about, the discovery of Sue the T-Rex. And it's also my Her Kid TBR. Okay, and lastly, we have Lunar Scrying, which the prompt is a moon on the cover or the title, and I chose Euphoria Kids by Allison Evans, another one on my Her Kid TBR. And this obviously has a moon on the cover. This is YA magical realism about these kids who are each connected to magic in some way and are also kind of outcasts. So we'll see how I like it. Then lastly, for my characters who are getting their first degree, there is Radha, who's learning to be a Feywild cartographer. So she has 4 subjects as well, but less classes than Rafaela. So her subjects are alchemy, astronomy, demonology, and inscription. So for alchemy, she only has to do 1 level, and that is health potion. And for that, the prompt is red cover. So again, I went for the second in a trilogy, and I went for The Trials of Coley by M.R. Carey. This is a science fiction book that I really enjoyed the first one too, even though it's quite the basic kind of setup. It's quite the basic hero's journey. But basically this happens in a world thousands of years in the future where we went very wrong in trying to solve the climate crisis, and essentially made man-eating cherries. So people cannot really leave their village. And we follow our main character as he discovers that not everything is right in his village and is forced to leave. He's sent into exile. Okay, then we have astronomy, and again, she only has to do 1 level for this. And for astronomy, as I said, I need to read a book that's published in 2000. And again, like I said, I don't have any on my TBR. So I went for 7 Spools of Thread, a Kwanzaa story by Angela S. Medeiros and Daniel Minter. This looks to be like a folktale retelling, which I absolutely love, so I'm excited. Okay, then for demonology, again, she only has to read 1 level. That prompt was Shadow Sprites, and that is the word shadow in the title. I don't have anything in my TBR with the word shadow in it, so I chose a picture book, which is Smoke, A Rebellious Shadow by Michelle Cuevas and Sydney Smith. And I believe this is about a shadow who gets tired of being a shadow and is like, I'm tired of doing whatever my person is doing, so I'm just going to go do my own thing. Sounds cute. And lastly for her, like I said, we have inscription, and for this she actually does have to do 2 levels. So the first one is proper cataloging, for which the prompt is alphabet wheel. So I spun a wheel with all the letters of the alphabet, and the letter that came out was O, and I had to find a book that the title started with the letter O. Luckily it wasn't X or something. But I went for The Old Patagonian Express by Train Through the Americas by Paul Theroux. And this is a nonfiction book about a guy who basically goes from the top of North America to the bottom of South America by train. I'm very excited for this because I just read a nonfiction book that took place in South America. And I really like the descriptions of South America. So, and a lot of it was about Patagonia as well. And also there's another book that I really like. Where is it? Non-fiction books. Greenland by Gerald Durrell also takes place in Patagonia, and I also really like the descriptions of Patagonia there. So, the fact that it's called the Old Patagonian Express making me excited. And lastly, the next and final prompt for her is the in-betweeners, which is a punctuation mark in the title. And I went for Cinders and Sparrows by Stefan Bachmann, and the and is spelled with an ampersand and not the letter and, which is why it has a punctuation mark in the title. So this one is a fantasy about a girl who's an orphan, and she has had a pretty terrible life up to now, but she inherits a castle, which honestly does not seem to be so great. Okay, then we move to my character Estella, and she already finished last year getting her first degree, well, both of them, and now she's getting her second degree, which is an alchemical pharmacologist. And this works a little differently. Instead of having a set amount of prompts, I have a set amount of pages I need to get to. Now, I don't need to get to those pages all in one semester. That would be crazy because I have to get to 5,900 pages in the autumn semester. But this can be divided across as many amounts as I want. Like, I do not have to get to 5,900 pages a semester. I can get to one page if I like this semester. I mean, I'd like to get to more, but you know. So she has a few prompts that I can try to fill. Plus, she can also fill the prompts that exist for alchemy and restoration. So if I have any that fit for that, I'll tell you again what it is. But the prompts that she has to fill, that she can possibly fill, she doesn't have to fill them, are Leaves on the Cover, Alchemy in the title, or Published this year. And I really just went for Leaves on the Cover. That's pretty much the easiest one. So my options, and these are just options, these aren't set, I'm going to read them, but I have Pat of Silverbush, which would be a reread for me, and this is about a girl who really, really, really loves her house. The house is called Silverbush. Then, in books that are not rereads for me, I have Tempest in the Tea Room by Libby Astaire, which is a historical Jewish mystery, which just sounds so exciting. Then I have, and like, there are leaves on this teacup. Then I have The Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is a mystery about this guy, or no, it's not a mystery, it's a thriller, about this guy and his daughter who have lived isolated for basically all of the daughter's life. But then, and there's this one guy that visits them, and then he disappears. I am very curious about this one. And then I have two picture books. I have Hashalkat by Yoram Everadeni. I have no idea what this is about, but it has leaves on the cover. And Diary of a Wombat by Jackie French and Bruce Watley, which has carrot leaves on the cover. And this is, I think, is just like a wombat telling about her day. And it sounds very cute. And it's also from Australia, and I always want to read books that are not just published in America, England, and Israel. And then, in books that I don't physically own, we also have, in books I don't physically own, I just went for the alchemy prompt. I believe it was the alchemy prompt, correct? No, it was not the alchemy prompt. It was the restoration prompt for Jitterjinx, which was verb in the title. So I just took a bunch of books that have verbs in the title. So I Found a Kitty by Troy Cummings, which is a picture book, which is on my TBR, about a dog who really, really wants to adopt a kitty cat. I love that kind of book. Then Learning to Swear in America by Katie Kennedy, which is a science fiction YA book about this Russian kid genius who is brought to America to try to stop an asteroid from landing on Earth, but then he finds out he actually has to convince everyone that the asteroid is coming so that he can get funding. Helgoland, Making Sense of the Quantum Revolution by Carlo Rovelli. This is nonfiction about physics Vanished Kingdoms, The Rise and Fall of States and Nations by Norman Davies. Nonfiction, it's pretty obvious what it's about. Hunger Makes the Wolf by Alex Wells. This is about a mercenary whose boss's brother goes missing, I think. And it's science fiction, and she has to find him. And When It All Syncs Up by Maya Amaya, which is about a ballet, which is a YA book about a ballet dancer. So that's my tentative TBR. Well, mainly tentative for Estella, but I can always change to other books for the rest. For Aurelium Autumn Semester 2026.